of that. As always, for those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it if you can. As always, comment down below as well if you want to see something else for us to talk about, or you want to comment on any of the things that we discuss. And for those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other podcasting platform, please follow and give us a 5-star review if you can. Definitely helps get us in front of more listeners and watchers. All right. And on the topic of Southgate, let's get into the special segment. So for this week, we are going to review essentially the bookies' favourites for the Man United job. And this is obviously now with the news that Tommy Tuchel has taken the England job, so he's not included in this. And we're going to go through the top 5 bookies' favourites for the job. So just to rattle off who they are, Ruud van Nistelrooy is currently the favourite for the job, with Southgate being second favourite, Kieran McKenna third favourite, Graham Potter fourth, and Thomas Frank fifth. Obviously, that is a big range of different types of managers and different stages and so on and so forth. But we're going to rank them based off of what we think would be the best choice for Man United to go for. So this may not be necessarily in the same order that they are actually the bookies' favourites. So obviously, we'll start with you, Antony, because obviously I think you're going to be maybe a bit closer to this and have and really strong opinions on each of these managers. We'll go through all 5 of yours first, your rankings, and then I'll go next. All right. So why don't you kick us off with number 5? Who do you think would be the worst choice of those 5 as the Man United manager, the next Man United manager?
And just to clarify, these are all permanent managers, right? Because the Ruud van Nistelrooy
these would all be these would all be permanent managers for the future, not just interim.
Got you. All right, that does change things a little bit, but number 5, it doesn't. That's Southgate. I don't want him anywhere near the club. He's crap. We don't need we do need PR, but I prefer our Ineos leadership team to worry about that, and our manager to worry about tactics and how to win on the field. So I don't want Southgate anywhere near us. Get waistcoats banned from Old Trafford. I think he's the one manager that no fan. And our fans are pretty bloody toxic, right? We rival you guys for toxicity. I think we may have overtaken you in recent times. Not even one that I've seen online or spoken to in real life has uttered anything slightly positive about Southgate. So he might be the one uniting factor within the United fan base, which has been very divided recently, because I think none of us want a sniff of him anywhere near OT. So Southgate is 5th, but only because I can't put him lower. He would be lower than that if I had a chance.
Okay. No. All right, who have you got 4th then?
All right, 4th. This is a bit of a tricky one, because I'll be honest, this is a stinkfest. So 4th, I would probably put Kieran McKenna. And that's no slight on him, but obviously his experience is not vast, and like his biggest accolades are getting teams up, or getting Ipswich up from League One to the Championship and the Championship to the Premier League, which, don't get me wrong, is a massive feat, but there's no proof he can deal with, a big club as a manager. He's obviously been a coach, but unfortunately that didn't go that well with United under Solskjaer, especially at the end. But I wouldn't actually be mad if he did get the job, but on this list, I'm just looking at who could come in and be an effective project manager, and who's got that blend of a bit of experience and also, some achievements. So I'd put him 4th, but maybe I could swap him and put him higher. But I think at the moment I'll chuck him in at 4th. Yeah.
And then who have you got in 3rd then?
All right, 3rd, I'm gonna put Graham Potter. Again, he's not too dissimilar to McKenna, to be honest. I know he's managed in Norway and did decent with that long name, Stromgotsen Fret, or whatever they're called. I remember they beat you guys at Emirates, which was decent.
Thanks for that.
Yep, you're welcome. And he's done pretty well with them. But small leagues, it's even smaller than Holland, the Netherlands, the Dutch league, and his accolades in the Premier League. Don't get me wrong, he did well with Brighton, but people would argue probably De Zerbi's Brighton were probably the most impressive that they've seen in recent years. So he built the foundations with that club. But again, it's not United. It's not going for Europe. It's not winning titles. So, and the only experience he had, Chelsea, absolutely bombed. And I don't blame him solely, because that was the Todd Bowley era where they were, God knows what was going on inside that club. It was less stable than now, and even now it's not that stable. But he was the unfortunate one to follow Tommy Tuchel, so he kind of got shafted. But I think based on what he's done and his career, like, remember what I said last week, the next manager needs to have some sort of charisma. He needs to be able to get the players on side. And from what I saw of Graham Potter, he seems like a lovely chap, but he kind of seems like an English Ten Hag when it comes to that charisma side of things. He doesn't seem to inspire a lot, right? So I'd have to put him third, I think. So that leaves my top two. Yeah, I'll do these together because it'll be obvious. But I'm gonna put Van Nistelrooy second, and I'm gonna put Thomas Frank first. And this goes completely based off what I just said. Van Nistelrooy has obviously done PSG job. I think they won the title, but he doesn't have a huge amount of experience. He does have the know-how and the knowledge of United as a player, and now as an assistant. And I think he would inspire the fans. And I don't know if it will be super long term. It might be an Ollie situation where he's in for 2 or 3 years, but not super long. But I don't think it's going to be as toxic as it would have been if we got a Tuchel or someone like that. So I would put Van Nistelrooy second. And I'm going to put Thomas Frank first. For the main, there's a couple of reasons, right? He obviously hasn't really won anything, but let's be real, he's Brentford manager. So
keeping it in the Premier League is winning something. I'm sorry to say.
Exactly.
Ivan Toney and Mbeumo basically as their major players for the whole time.
Yeah, they've totally. Their leadership has moneyballed the hell out of that club, and it's worked so far. But it's a testament to him and his coaching that they've managed to stay up for the length of time that they have. And they've never really been in a scare either, or a scrap as well. So I think that's also something to think about. But you know what the key is? He talks well, bro. I remember, did you watch the Euro coverage? You were here then, I'm pretty sure, in the UK. And he was on and he talked complete sense. Like everything he said was completely like common sense, logical. He was cracking some jokes here and there and he got me on side. And then, so I think from the charisma and the inspirational side of things, I think you could get something out of our players. And the second point, and this is a key one, I don't know what style of play he plays as a majority. And that's not because like Ten Hag vibes, we don't know because it's unclear on the pitch. I mean, because he plays different styles all the bloody time. He'll play you're expecting him to go kind of long ball Allardyce against Man City, but no, they passed him off the pitch for the first 45 minutes. And Guardiola's come out saying like, I've never seen a team do that to me before and just come in and pass it around with bloody Norgard and Damsgaard and all these guards. Like, they're not not the best guards, not Odegaard, not bloody I don't know, another guard which is good. He's got these B-list, C-list guards, and they're coming out and passing Man City off the pitch and scoring early goals and giving them a scare. And then other times where he does play a bit more direct and he does kind of go after things and do the counter. So I just feel like he would be, in terms of tactically, someone that I think would just make it really difficult for other teams when we play them. And that's something that I really bloody crave. Like, honestly, I crave opposition team coming in and saying, oh, this is going to be a difficult game, or, kind of not knowing what to expect in a positive sense. And I think from this list, Thomas Frank is the one that stands out. And this is a 180 for me, because before what's happened in the last 12 months or 18 months, I thought Thomas Frank was the epitome of like a mid-table manager. But with the options available and what I've seen from him in the last year, I think he's got to be top of this list, right? This is Beavis and Butthead list. Like he's got to be top of this list. But yeah, let's get into yours, mate. What you saying?
Well, yeah, all right. I mean, I'm gonna go from fifth as well, and I'm gonna agree with you. Southgate is my number 5, and the reason why I'm gonna say that is a couple of different reasons. Number one is I think tactically he just does not have the capability in modern club football to really be the best around. I think if anybody anywhere near the level of you know, Arteta, Guardiola, whatever else in terms of like tactical nous comes up against him, I think they're wiping him off the pitch, man. He's going to play his like 11 men behind the ball football, and it won't be easy necessarily, but I just don't think it's going to be the kind of football that anybody wants to watch. And I don't think in the end it will be successful football if you look at kind of the performance of England, right? And I think you add on to the fact that Southgate's England is arguably man for man one of the best national teams around right now, and he still can't get them to play attractive football. Like, what are you going to do with this Man United team? Have you seen some of the players you're going to have to be dealing with? I saw one guy describe Bruno Fernandes as the most expensive grenade launcher in history, right? Like, that's what Gareth Southgate is going to have to deal with. And I just don't think he has that tactical ability to deal with what he's going to have to deal with this team. I don't think he's got the craftiness to do with that. And I think craftiness is the way that I am going to be rating my list. How crafty are you as a manager? And charisma, I think, is number 2. So I think those are the things that really make me not believe in Southgate. On top of that, I think his whole facade of being able to get managers, get teams together and get players to play with each other well, I think is massively overblown. I think if this was 20 years ago and you had like the Scholeses and the Giggses not wanting to talk to the Gerrards and the Lampards, I think fine. If he could manage to unite those players, then fair enough. He can do a job at Man United. But these players are mostly friends with each other anyway, right? There's not too much to break down in the way of anger between these different players. And in my opinion, Man United is a way harder job to unite that team than it would be to unite the England team. They're all at least English speaking, coming from English cultures for the most part. Uniting and integrating the group of players is not that difficult, right? Plus the fact that you've got players in that team, in that England team, that are serial winners in the fact of like Kyle Walker, John Stones, even Phil Foden now, right? You've got the experience of players that have won stuff and the players that haven't won stuff, and you can integrate them well, not easily, but you can integrate them pretty decently, right? With Man United, it's a completely different story. You've got half of the squad is completely new. You've got half the squad that is like old school. I guess not old school, but like they've been there for a while now. They've been through all the different managers. They kind of think they run the show. Then you've got I guess what you would call like the foreign players that aren't treated well by the media, that probably have their own camp and are not trying to integrate with the rest of them. Like it's an absolute mess to deal with. So I'm sticking Southgate at number 5. I also don't think he's dumb enough to take the job because I think he quite likes the fact that everyone somewhat respects him as a manager now. And I think going to Man United would ruin that immediately because he'd get sacked within a year. So Southgate's number 5. For number 4, I am going for Ruud van Nistelrooy. And that's probably a bit of a shock to you, but I just don't think you need another manager that is a former player. I think Ollie did well. I think he managed to get the players to play for him. And I think there were enough players in there that were from the youth or, had an affinity for Man United that they would play real hard and run through brick walls for Ollie. I don't know if they will do that for Van Nistelrooy. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think Van Nistelrooy has the personality to do this. I'm going to just base this off of what I've seen so far and then his personality as a player. He was always kind of, not timid, but he was quite quiet, right? He was quite reserved. He wasn't, in my opinion, like the first one to come and speak to the media. He wasn't the first one to come out and lead the team necessarily, right? He was a stone cold gunman up front, and that is definitely a great, experience to have as a Man United manager. But I just don't think he has the personality to be a Man United manager. I think he will be very much like Ollie, where he's going to get pushed around and bullied by all of the things that are happening, the media and whoever else. The journalists asking him difficult questions, driving him to the brink of insanity like they're doing with Ten Hag. I just don't think it will suit him. And I also think from the point of view of like his tactical experience, like as PSV manager, you winning the league is great and everything, but I'm not going to like put that down as like, oh, he's now really, really good. Because PSV, Ajax are in the mud. PSV are pretty much dominating that league, right? Like, maybe one or two other teams getting closer to them, but PSV should be winning that. So I'm not going to put too much stock in that. I don't think that really qualifies him to be good enough for Man United. So that's that. Number 3, I am going to put Graham Potter. I think, again, craftiness, rating of 0. I'm giving him 0 for craftiness, 0 for personality, 0 for charisma. I think he would get absolutely eaten alive by this fan base and by this media. I think if he can't deal with Chelsea's fan base, which are pretty toxic, he's never going to be able to deal with Man United's fan base. And like I said, you guys are not in the best position right now. You're going to be in the mud for a little bit longer, and he's going to have to deal with some stuff. He's going to have to deal with some losses. He's going to have to deal with some crazy stuff, some bad performances, this, that, and the other. I just don't think he's got the personality to deal with it, man. And I think the Man United fans particularly will come out and see some of his responses to certain questions and think, what the fuck have we done getting this guy in? So, yeah, no, I think he would stink it up for Man United and he would get sacked pretty quickly as well. The only reason why I put him above Van Nistelrooy is because I think he's got slightly more tactical nous, I think, as a manager. I think he'd be slightly better in terms of a style of play. But obviously, I guess Van Nistelrooy does have the whole fact that he's Ruud Van Nistelrooy behind him, so maybe that would help. But I just think in the long term that would wear off at a certain point anyway. So yeah, I've got Potter at 3. For number 2, I'm going for Kieran McKenna. I like what I see from him. I don't think Ipswich are going to stay up. I do think they're going to go down. But I think I like most. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I like them the most of the 3 promoted teams that have come up so far in terms of the way they play, some of the players that they've got. They're not the biggest names of teams, but I think they're doing pretty well. And I think it's a lot down to him. I also think the fact that he is like a pure project manager, in my opinion. He's got a pretty clear style of play. That is what you want. Add to the fact that he's Irish and he's actually got some charisma to him. Or should I say, is he Northern Irish? What is he?
Yeah, he's Northern Irish, sure. But
there you go. Sorry, Kieran. He's Northern Irish. Sorry to all the Irish and Northern Irish people out there. I know that you guys don't like to be confused. But yeah, he's Northern Irish. He's got some character to him. He's a Man United fan, I believe, and a pretty diehard Man United fan in that as well, which will kind of build the pride, right? The pride for wanting to do a good job at that team. I think the fact that he is, I've seen him in interviews and he looks a bit scary, you know what I mean? I think a Man United manager does need to look a bit scary in his responses. He looks quite stern. I think he's probably got a bit of it like a jokey side to him too. So I think when times are good, he'd be a good manager to have in there. But when times are hard, he'd be a better manager to have in there in terms of the fact that I think he'd be able to come out and give the stone-faced responses to the reporters that they need, right? Because I'm sorry, you don't need Ange Postecoglou coming out and joking and saying that, we're going to play entertaining football all the time, mate, and all that stuff. You don't need that. You need someone that's going to come out that's scary. Like, that scares other managers, that scares the reporters. Sir Alex Ferguson's the best way I can put it. Like, if he looked at you in a certain way, you knew that it was over for you, right? He was going to say something real mean, or you'd never be put on a Man United match again. And there's something about Kieran McKenna that kind of gives me that vibe, right? So that's why I think he could be a good manager for Man United. And in terms of craftiness, I definitely think he's got more to his game in terms of the way he can play and the tools that he's got at his disposal to make Man United play in a few different ways. Number 1, I'm going for Thomas Frank, and I'm going to put in there a big I told you so, because we were having a conversation earlier, I think in the summer, and I said Thomas Frank would be a great Man United manager, and he's probably the best crop of what you're being linked to at the moment. And you said, yeah, you respect him, but he's a mid-table manager and we need someone better. And I'm sure that you'd say there are managers outside of this 5 that you'd probably still prefer. But if it's this 5, Tommy Frank, come on down. Yeah, there you go. He's put his hand up for the my bad. And so my point on this is, if craftiness is number 1, Thomas Frank is the craftiest manager on this list, mate. He is, in my opinion, one of the most talented tactical managers there are in the Premier League. And the reason why I say that is because he's really good at reading teams. Like, he builds his play style. And one of the reasons why I think you say that, like, he doesn't really have one, is because he just adapts his team to whatever is coming up against him. And it's one of the things that I've said before. Exactly. And it's one of the things when we've said before, like predicting Arsenal-Brentford matches, I'm always absolutely in bricks because he knows how to play against everyone and he seems to figure out the best way to do so. The problem is his team quality lets him down. So he gets like these bloody 44-second goals or whatever it is 4 times in a row. And then his team just shits the bed. Ethan Pinnock's falling left, right and centre. He's got crap goalkeeper, crap, whoever else, and his team can't just really sustain it. And the fact that the quality of that team is able to perform the way that they are able to perform and stay in the Premier League is mental. Because, I mean, outside of Mbeumo, maybe Wissa, I guess like Pinnock, maybe, that's a bloody like promotion level team. Like you look at that team and then you look at Leicester. I'm going to argue that Leicester have probably got more names in their team than Brentford do. And I think that Thomas Frank has massively overperformed with them. And it's partly due to the fact that, number one, yes, he's tactically really good and he can get wins when he probably doesn't deserve them based off of like setting up in the right way. And then number two, I agree with you 100%. He deals with the media really, really well. I think he's really intelligent. I think he can have a joke. He's always chewing his chewing gum. Like he seems like a good geezer. And no, I just think that he's built for that, right? And I think also there's like a Danish Man United connection, right? I feel like there's previously been quite a big Scandinavian kind of fan base for Man United. I think a lot of Danish people have always kind of had an affinity for Man United. I think Man United tends to be their number one club. So it makes sense to have like a Danish manager come in and manage you guys. So yeah, that's a bit of a weak reason, I know, but I think he would be the best out of these five in terms of the personality, the craftiness, and the tactical ability. I think he would be able to get a tune out of this team, particularly as at the moment Erik Ten Hag is underperforming versus the quality of the team, and that's something because the quality of the team is not great, and he's still underperforming it. Whereas I think Thomas Frank could get you into the top 4, top 5 with the caliber of your team right now.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, right? Number one, the way you measured this on craftiness is top tier.
Exactly.
I don't think I've heard someone use the word crafty for.
He's crafty, man.
You've just based the biggest job in English football on craftiness, which, to be honest, we still got to the same end result. And I, like you said, I had to hold hand up and give him my bad because I did, and I wasn't sure about Thomas Frank. And I'll be honest, if we had a traditional like list of candidates, I still would argue that he might not be number one. He'd probably be number 3 or whatever. I think if you threw Amorim in there even as well, maybe he would be 2 or 3 or something like that based on that. But yeah, Thomas Frank, man, I think he has proven it, and I would agree with you to a certain extent. I'm not that down on the squad as some people are right now. I know it's easy to be. We're in 14th. We stink. We're not doing well. A lot of the signings that we've got in haven't looked good so far. But I still think the squad is in a better place than it was before.
Yeah,
and I think really, if you had a competent manager and one that hadn't completely fallen off the wagon, which it looks like Ten Hag has, you should get top 4. Like, if I look at my players, and I don't mean like second or third, maybe you could pull off a third or something, but like, I'm not going to be outrageous and say we've definitely got a better squad or we've even got a better squad than Liverpool. But I don't think there's a country mile between Liverpool and United's squad. They've got world-class players, which we don't, right? We don't have that. But I think the rest of the average of the squads, the level of the squads is not wild. They've probably got a slightly better squad overall. But, but I think we've got a better squad than Villa, got a better squad than Tottenham, and I'm saying that even after they could easily spank us. Tottenham already have. Villa, I think, on a day when they weren't knackered after Bayern, probably do spank us. So it's just, I think the potential of the players that Ten Hag is not unlocking is huge, and a competent manager who can prove they can do that, like a Frank, comes in. And I think you'll see a vast improvement in the performances and where we'd finished in the league. And yeah, I think you got to make the decision, Ineos. Don't. I think they're riding it out until November. I bloody forgot, man. November's got another international break. Yeah. I thought this one was the November one, but it's not. I thought this led into November, but it doesn't. So I cocked it up. We've got bloody another one in like 3 or 4 weeks' time. And apparently that's the earliest we've ever sacked a manager. So I think they're probably earmarking that one as the final throw of the dice if Ten Hag's still stinking it. But we pray that will be the time.
Yep, We'll just keep on pushing it. So if it's not next international break, we'll say it's going to be Christmas break, and then we'll keep on pushing it until at some point they finally fire him. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if he can get worse, really. So between now and November, I don't know what needs to change for them to sack him. They'd probably just have to lose every single game between now and then. But yeah, I think that wraps up kind of the special segment. Let's get into the next segment.